I want you to level up so high that you will literally have to reintroduce yourself to the people that already know you. And I want you to do this in the most healthy and stable way possible. And I want you to do all of this without actually stressing out your nervous system. So, because we are at the right beginning of 2026, Happy New Year, by the way, I want to talk about goals and the importance of actually setting up systems and good planning. You are never going to reach a goal unless you have a secure planning on top of that. A goal can be defined by a mixture of certain tasks and very specific actions that you need to do to achieve something that you actually put your mind into. So let's just say that I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to lose 20 pounds in 3 months from now on. So what would I have to do? My goal would be to actually lose 20 pounds, yes, but how could I actually achieve that? By doing a certain amount of tasks and again, very specific actions to acquire them. So in order for me to lose 20 pounds in the next 3 months, I would have to start by getting a gym membership and going there actually on a daily basis. I would have to completely change my eating habits and I would have to start eating healthy. No more junk food and just a lot of vegetables and protein. And third but not least, I would have to at least drink 1 liter of water per day. So how do we call these actions? We actually call them planning or the system. Let's just say that for 2026 you want to start an online business, a brand. You would have to first have a very clear idea of what type of brand you would want yours to fit in. Secondly, what sets your brand apart from the ones already existing on the market. Third, you would have to come up with a certain product. And in fourth place, you would have to understand where to find customers and what you customers would like for you to have in store. Now, when selecting multiple goals, people make 2 specific mistakes. The first most common mistake is actually not being specific enough. I actually did this mistake just last year in 2025 because I wanted to be healthy. And I remember writing down in my diary in my New Year's resolution that I wanted to be healthy. But do you see how being healthy is just too generic? Like it doesn't make you understand anything specifically. When I was writing down my goal for the new year, I was completely lost because I was like, okay, I want to be healthy, but how can I be healthy? Because there are many ways in which you can be healthy. By being not specific enough, I wasn't able to come up with certain tasks that I needed to do in order for me to achieve that. The moment that you actually specify your goal and you really envision you achieving that goal, it's easier for you to actually come up with also solutions and ways for you to get there. Going back into the business brand idea, if you really want to achieve this goal by 2026, really ask yourself, what does having a brand for me mean? Because for me, for example, having a brand could actually mean something about clothing. So maybe I could come up with ideas about certain clothings, you know? Ask yourself, what does it really mean for you? I actually saw a lot of people for 2026 wanting to be financially free as a New Year resolution. But again, do you see how being financially free is just too generic? Like it doesn't answer any kind of question. What does being financially free actually means to you? Does it mean not having debt? Does it mean going out every single night? What does it actually mean to you? So the moment that you actually are writing down your New Year's resolution goals, whatever you want to achieve, also ask yourself, what does X, Y, and Z really means to me? What does being healthy means to me? What does being wealthy mean to me? A lot of people also like to say that they would like to be happy for this new year. Happiness is so vague. How can you say that you just want happiness? Because the happiness can come in different forms. Happiness can come in like you maybe having a dog, you having a cat to look after to, or you maybe putting on your favorite dress. What does happiness mean to you? Be very specific. The second mistake that people do when choosing the right goal for them is selecting goals and choosing goals that lack very emotional significance for them. Most people actually tend to choose goals out of obligation. For example, how many times did you actually caught yourself saying, I should really do this so my parents are going to be proud of me? Or I should really lose 50 pounds so I can stop getting bullied. Do you really want to achieve all of them? No. And the only reason why you are pressuring yourself to getting their results is because you feel obligated, you feel forced by external forces. In this case, your bullies and your parents are not being satisfied with you. You are very unlikely to remain very committed to the goal and you actually become dissatisfied. In addition to specifying your goals, you also have to specify and write down your anti-goals. So all of the things that you don't want to achieve, that you don't want to get for any kind of reason in the whole world. Basically, all of the possible outcomes that you want to avoid. For example, let's go back to me wanting to lose 20 pounds in the next 3 months. One of my anti-goals could be maybe going to the gym every day, but not on the weekends. So that's something that I want to avoid. Let's make another example so you can understand this better. In my case, personally speaking, I am now working on a book, on a self-help psychology book that I really want to be published, hoping to get, positive reviews from the buyers. Now, here's the issue. I recently found out that unless you are a doctor, so like a registered doctor, whether you are a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you really cannot publish a self-help as you're just simply not qualified to do so. My goal remains the same. So I still want to publish my book, my self-help psychology book. But my trajectory had to take, a turn, had to be a little bit slower because I had to enroll in a psychology university. Now, why am I doing this even though that I know it's costing me a lot of money and a lot of time? Like I am making so many sacrifices. And the reason is pretty easy. I've always loved to help people in the very possible way that I could have. And the writing is one of my passions. I actually thought about becoming a psychologist when I was younger, but then I got sick. And moving on to the third point, what are my anti-goals? All of the outcomes that I want to avoid for all costs. So my anti-goals are actually two. So the first one is the fact that I don't want, for any reason in the world, the book to be repetitive and annoying. So I need to be very careful about the way that I write and how long all of the chapters are going to be. At the same time, I don't want the book to be too short. So I want the book to be something in between. And that's actually not easy because when you are a writer and you just love writing and you have a lot of knowledge and you love sharing all of those infos with people around the world, it's not easy. I actually find myself completely zoning out while I am writing and I'm like, no, that's just too long. Let me just, cut it out. And then you have to go back at the right beginning of the chapter and be like, okay, what can I actually cut out? So while I was talking about my goal of 2026, did you actually notice how I actually answered 3 questions? The first question was, what's your goal? Literally, what's your goal? And I was very specific about it. I said, I want to publish a book that it's a self-help psychology book. All right, perfect. The second question was, how am I going to achieve all of this? Pretty easy. I was going to publish the book, but because I am not a qualified doctor, I had to enroll in a psychology university. And the third and last question was, what are my anti-goals? What are the things that I want to avoid? And I've just said to you what I wanted to avoid. These are the 3 steps that you always have to do when you come up with the goal in your mind that you want to achieve at all costs. I want you to remember that the more specific you are, the better it is for you. So by being even too specific, you know exactly the next step that you're going to take. On the other hand, when you're being too vague, you really don't know where to even begin. So what happens is the fact that when people have so many good goals in their minds, but they actually never accomplish them. And the main reason is because they are not specific enough. And because all of this requires a lot of patience and passion for what you are trying to achieve, so many people simply give up and they're just like, oh yeah, it must mean that I wasn't going to achieve all of that. And you are going to achieve everything that you put your mind into. And I'm going to explain in just a little bit the neurological reason behind we always achieve whatever we actually put our minds into. Just give me a few minutes. Now that we have established all of our goals, we have to come up with the planning, with the system behind it. How we are going to achieve everything that we actually said that we want to. Now, here's why I said that being specific is very, very important. Being specific about our goals is so important because it gives crystal clear instructions to our brains about what really matters to us, what's the most important thing to us. Neurologically speaking, the R.A.S, or also known as the reticular activating system, is a network of neurons in the brainstem that filters sensory information and determines what receives your attention and what doesn't. So by consciously focusing on planning our goals and our next step, we become more aware of the opportunities around us. As I said, this happens because your R.A.S, or however you want to call it, is basically highlighting what really matters to you. I've recently decided to start saving money for a new car, and the car that I want to buy is the Mustang Shelby GT500. I know, pretty badass car, right? But that costs a lot of money. If I want that brand new and the way that I wanted it to be, that costs a lot of money. But guess what happened just the other day? As I was driving to the gym, I literally saw right outside of my parking spot the same exact car in the same exact color that I wanted to buy. This is not magic. Another thing that you really need to ask yourself when choosing a goal is this realistic? And most importantly, am I really going to follow what I just wrote down? Most of the time, people set pretty unrealistic goals. When you set up a pretty unrealistic standard and a pretty unrealistic goal for yourself, you actually tend to harm yourself because it just discourages you. And when you understand, when you see that you simply don't have the capacity, the physical capacity to achieve and accomplish that goal, you become saddened and you're like, oh, writing down things just doesn't help me. Why am I even bothering trying to achieve all of my goals? Like, you are just choosing a pretty unrealistic goal for yourself. Every single time that you come up with a plan, the plan may also look very good in theory, but awful in practice. Let's take a look at this example. You want to lose weight, wonderful, fantastic. For some reasons, you have decided that you are going to run for 2 hours straight, no breaks in between, every single day, weekends included. Now, I'm asking you, are you really going to stick to the plan that you just made? No. And if you said yes, you know that you're lying deep down. Because you could stick to the plan the first 2 to 3 days. Then after the third day, you would understand how stupid that is. Because you can lose weight, in your example, you can lose weight in every other way possible. You don't have to run 2 hours every single day. You don't have to drink 5 liters of water every day. So whenever you come up with a plan, don't set up unrealistic systems that are just going to pull you down and stress you out. Third and the last step that you don't want to miss, trust me, because it's the most important one in my opinion, is building up a good system that answers this question. How am I going to stick to the progress that I want to make? What weekly check-ins do I have to do? Tracking your progress is the best thing that you can do. Tracking every day your progress, no matter how big, no matter how small they may seem to you, is the best thing that you can do. And here's why. Studies show that monitoring your progress is an effective self-regulating strategy. And those who do are more likely to achieve their goals than those who don't track anything. That's not your sign to start tracking down your things. I don't know what will. Again, I want you to really understand this. No matter how small the progress may seem to you, trust me, the smallest ones are the ones that actually makes the difference in the long run. You will never know how much progress you have made until you write that down. Because the moment that you write something down, you have a clear idea of the direction you are going and the obstacles that you are actually facing or the one that you may face in the near future. Set up reminders, write down everything. For example, I use sticky notes to remind myself to track all of my progress. at the end of the day. I, for example, like to use Google Sheets for my gym progress. It's free, it's very easy to use, you can also use it offline. So it happens that most of the times while I am working out, I simply am listening to my music, I have my earphones on, and I don't want anybody to disturb me. So what I do is that I would put my phone onto DND or to maybe airplane mode. And that's a Google Sheets, in my opinion, it's so useful. That's not advertising, by the way, like Google did not pay me, so you can use whatever you want. But it's just so useful for me and so easy because, again, as I am offline, I can still track my gym progress. So it's just like very easy to use. And I have noticed that the moment that I actually started taking my gym progress seriously, I have accomplished so many goals that just a few years ago, I thought that they were impossible. If you go onto my Google Sheets, like a PDF file, you would see that there are many days in which I felt like shit and I felt like I really hadn't done much at the gym. But adding everything up actually got me to achieving so much that I never thought that I would do. And that's crazy. You can also set up reminders. I always have to write the things down and then pull all those sticky notes around my house that will forcefully remind me of what I have to do. But that's a good way for me to remember what I have to do because I am going to do all of those things at the end of the day. Anyway, you can track your progress however you like. I was just telling you about my favorites. Now, the last component is a very high quality piece of advice. Trust me, it's chef kiss, you don't want to miss it. The best way for you to actually achieve everything is taking accountability, which is the one thing that most people struggle with. We humans, we are always so good at pretending like everything that we do is right. We can never be wrong, no matter if we kill someone. It's so rare and hard to find someone who takes accountability for everything that they do. We always like to blame other people. We never blame ourselves, even if it's something that we personally did. Nah, trust me, it's not me. Like, it must have been the wind, it must have been someone else, but trust me, I never did it. When it comes to wanting to accomplish certain things, taking accountability and the responsibility for everything that you do is the only thing that it's going to take you from the start to the finish line in a way that you can also learn from. Taking accountability is fundamental for self-improvement. Doing this will also help you analyze your plan from a different perspective, almost as if it were a third person's point of view, and see what's actually working and what's not. So what you can leave behind and what you can keep on doing. If you found this video helpful, then make sure to let me know where your 2026 goals are. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you want, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Bye!